Hello and welcome to Helfand Farm Community Gardens. My name is Ben, and today we're going to talk about soil compaction and how you can avoid it in your garden. Now, it is a very windy early spring day, and this is actually the ideal time to evaluate gardening practice because the rain has been pounding people's gardens for months now, and we can really get an idea of what works and doesn't. So this is the soup kitchen garden right here, and I will show you a bed that has had nothing done to it, and you can see hopefully how crusted it is. I'll show you with my hand. It's a little loose on top, but immediately I can't get my hand into the soil at all underneath. And this will not be a problem at all when we plant, but it will mean that we'll have to turn the soil once or twice with a garden fork. Marlene and her volunteers will do that, and it'll be nice and light again. But I can show you a bed where we did things differently. Now, this bed was mulched with compost, and I'll show you with my hand again. Compost is just dusted on the surface a couple inches, but even under that, I can easily dig a hole with my hand. I can just get it right in there. And the compost we used here was Bob's Best Organic Compost, made right here in South Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And it is really good stuff, very high in organic matter, works great as a mulch because there's no weed seeds in it. And because it has so much organic matter, it will actually stop weeds from growing underneath it if you mulch it to a depth of 3 inches or so. But even less than that, it'll help deter weeds. But the amazing thing is how well it does to keep that soil tilth, the nice light friable soil underneath it. And Marlene would like to move to a no-till or low-till method of gardening, which means just mixing the top couple of inches with the fertilizer for the year before planting, and then mulching once again with compost like this, and again minimizing, really completely avoiding the need for turning or rototilling the soil. And the reason this works is because it's mimicking nature. Now, gardeners have an instinct for this. They like to see that nice light fluffy soil. But it works because that's what you'll find in nature. If you go into a meadow or the forest, you'll see organic matter decomposing on the surface of the soil, and the plants will be growing in the soil underneath that, and the decaying matter will feed the plants from the surface of the soil and also keep the soil texture really good. Now, the reason this really helps our plants is, of course, the nice light soil will allow water and nutrients to get to the plants more easily. But the light soil will also especially allow air to get to the soil microbial life, and really encouraging the health of your soil microbes is the name of the game when it comes to organic gardening. So that's a really big benefit. If you take care of your soil, you'll take care of your plants. Now, this is a gardener here at the community garden who allowed me to show you in her garden what she's doing with some raised beds. Now, she's not filling these all in 1 year, which is fine. But she put bags of topsoil from a garden center in here, and you can see that has allowed this to be very light. The topsoil you get at garden centers is generally very high in organic matter, so it's kind of like mixing your own topsoil with a little bit of compost. If you wanted to mimic that here at the community garden, we have our own free compost, which is the stuff we make ourselves, which is actually more like topsoil because there's so much sod that goes into it. I can show you that real quick. And if you use that in your garden and maybe mix in about 10% compost, it's going to give you similar results to what we just saw there. And if you use compost as a mulch on top of that, you're really getting a 1-2 punch. And I think that'll work out really well for you. So I'll just show you really quick where you can get our own free compost. This is it right over here. You can see the big pile with a wood frame around it, and we'll have a sign up there marking the pile pretty soon. But if you want to get the compost that I showed you at the beginning of the video, we sell that. If you're a gardener here, you can get that. We sell it for what we buy it for, just as a convenience to gardeners. And now I'm going to show you my own garden. I use a different technique. It's a lazy man technique. I'm kind of known for that. So this garden was rototilled in July. I planted at the beginning of August. And for the first 2 months, I weeded it as you normally would. But for the last month, beginning in October or so, I just let the weeds go. And you can see I got all the same kind of weed that came up. Maybe somebody will know what that is, but formed a nice mat. I'll show you the soil texture. So it's not really light like the others. Part of that is because of the plant roots, but it's not compacted either. And again, that's because we're mimicking nature by having plants growing in the soil. The plants know what they're doing. They're keeping the soil light enough that you're going to have the soil life, those microbes I mentioned, really flourish. And those microbes are going to help feed the plants by releasing nutrients from the environment. So it's a really symbiotic relationship. And again, nature knows what it's doing. Now, the problem with this technique is, of course, I'm going to have to pull these out or till them under with a garden fork. So you're not really saving yourself effort, and that's probably why you don't see this as a common gardening practice. But it's definitely better than just having bare soil over the winter. And another way to recreate this is to just plant a cover crop. You could undersow your vegetables when they're close to maturity. I wouldn't do this early in planting because the weeds can outcompete your vegetables that you want to grow. But you could do that later on, and or do it when the plants have already been pulled out. And it's a good way to go. So I hope that's given you some ideas of what you can do in your own garden. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I hope everybody has a great day and a better tomorrow.